Israel just bombed Tehran, not the outskirts, not military bases in the desert, the capital, the heart of Iran. And they didn't just hit buildings, they targeted Iran's leadership. Specifically, they bombed a meeting of senior clerics who were gathering to choose the next supreme leader. This happened this morning, March 5, 2026. Multiple waves of Israeli F-35 stealth fighters penetrated Iranian airspace undetected. They struck government buildings, Revolutionary Guard headquarters, and a compound where Iran's Assembly of Experts was meeting. The Assembly of Experts, that's the body of 88 senior clerics responsible for choosing Iran's next supreme leader. They were meeting to decide who replaces Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed by airstrikes 6 days ago, and Israel bombed the meeting. At least 15 clerics are confirmed dead, dozens more injured. The succession process, already chaotic after Khamenei's death, is now completely derailed. And here's what makes this even more significant. President Trump just said the war could last weeks, not days, not almost over, weeks, multiple weeks. This is a strategic signal report. I'm Sarah Mitchell. Over the next 11 minutes, I'm breaking down exactly what Israel hit in Tehran, why they targeted the clerics choosing Iran's next leader, what Trump's week's timeline means, how Iran is responding, whether this brings us closer to regional war, and what happens to a country when you decapitate its leadership twice in 1 week. Let's go. Let me walk through the Israeli strikes that hit Tehran this morning, because the targets tell you the strategic goal. According to Israeli military sources speaking to the Times of Israel and Reuters, the operation began at approximately 4:47 a.m. Tehran time. Here's the sequence. Wave 1, air defense suppression. Israeli F-35s launched missiles at Iranian air defense systems around Tehran. This created corridors for follow-up strikes. Iran's defenses were already degraded by strikes over the past week, so Israeli aircraft faced limited resistance. Wave 2, government buildings. Israeli jets struck the Ministry of Intelligence headquarters in northern Tehran. This is where Iran's intelligence apparatus coordinates operations. Massive explosion. Building collapsed. Casualties unknown but likely significant. Wave 3, Revolutionary Guard headquarters, the IRG Central Command. Building in Tehran was hit with bunker buster bombs. This is separate from the Revolutionary Guard facilities the U.S. hit last week. Israel is targeting what's left of Iran's military command structure. Wave 4, the Assembly of Experts compound. This is the most significant strike. The Assembly of Experts was meeting at a compound in central Tehran to begin the process of selecting a new supreme leader. Israeli intelligence knew the meeting was happening. They knew the location, and they struck it. According to Iranian state media, which is trying to downplay the damage, at least 15 clerics were killed in the strike. Opposition sources say the number could be higher, possibly 20-30. Among the dead, several senior ayatollahs who were considered leading candidates to become the next supreme leader. Wave 5, missile storage facilities. Israeli jets also hit weapons depots on the outskirts of Tehran where Iran stores ballistic missiles. These strikes were designed to further degrade Iran's ability to retaliate. Total, over 40 targets hit across Tehran in a coordinated operation lasting approximately 3 hours. This is the first time Israel has struck Tehran directly since, arguably ever on this scale. Israel hit Iranian nuclear facilities before. They've hit targets in Syria and Iraq, but a massive daylight bombing campaign on the Iranian capital? That's unprecedented. So why did Israel specifically target the Assembly of Experts meeting? Why bomb the clerics choosing Iran's next supreme leader? The answer is strategic decapitation. Israel is trying to prevent Iran from having stable leadership. Here's how Iran's succession process works. When a supreme leader dies, the Assembly of Experts 88 senior clerics elected by the public meets to choose a replacement. They debate, negotiate, and eventually select someone. That person becomes the new supreme leader with total authority over Iran's government, military, and nuclear program. Ayatollah Khamenei was killed 6 days ago on February 28. The Assembly of Experts immediately went into emergency session. They've been meeting in secret trying to choose a successor. The leading candidates were Ayatollah Ibrahim Raisi. He was killed in the same strike that killed Khamenei. Ayatollah Ahmad Khatami. Hardliner, considered frontrunner Ayatollah Mohammad Yazdi. Elderly, conservative Ayatollah Mahmoud Hashemi Sharudi. Pragmatic, seen as compromise candidate. And now, according to reports, at least 2 of those candidates, Khatami and Sharudi, were killed in this morning's Israeli strike. So Iran has lost its supreme leader, lost its president, and now lost multiple candidates to replace the supreme leader. What's Israel's goal? Chaos. Israel wants Iran to be ungovernable. If there's no clear leader, there's no one to coordinate military operations, no one to make strategic decisions, no one to negotiate a ceasefire. Iran becomes a failed state, and a failed state can't threaten Israel. But there's a risk to this strategy. If Iran has no functioning government, who controls the nuclear program? Who controls the missiles? Who's in charge of the Revolutionary Guard? You could end up with rogue commanders launching attacks on their own. You could have internal fighting between factions. You could have chaos that's actually more dangerous than a unified enemy. Israel is betting that chaos favors them. We'll see if they're right. Now let's talk about Trump's timeline, because it shifted again. Yesterday, Trump said the war would last for 5 weeks. Today, in response to the Israeli strikes, he said it could last weeks plural, no specific number. That's a subtle but significant change. For 5 weeks gave people a concrete end date. Could last weeks is open-ended. It could be 3 weeks. It could be 8 weeks. Why the change? Here's what Trump said in a statement this morning. Israel has conducted strikes on terrorist targets in Tehran. We coordinated with our Israeli allies on this operation. Iran's leadership continues to threaten the region until they surrender completely or are removed from power. This war will continue. That could be weeks. We'll see. Notice, could be weeks, not will be 4 weeks. The timeline is now uncertain, and here's why that matters. When you're in week 1 of a war and you're told for more weeks, you can plan for that. You budget for gas prices. You adjust your spending. You mentally prepare. But when you're told could be weeks, meaning anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months, you can't plan. You don't know if this ends in mid-March or mid-May, and that uncertainty is economically damaging. Stock markets hate uncertainty. Consumers delay purchases. Businesses delay hiring. The economy slows. Trump is essentially saying, I thought we'd be done faster, but Israel just escalated things by bombing Tehran, so now I don't know. And that's honest, but it's also scary. So how is Iran responding to Israel bombing their capital? Short answer, they're trying to, but they're struggling. According to US Central Command and Israeli military sources, Iran has attempted several retaliatory actions in the past 12 hours. Ballistic missiles launched at Israel. Iran fired approximately 50 ballistic missiles toward Israeli cities this afternoon. Israel's Arrow and David's Sling defense systems intercepted most of them. 3 got through. 1 hit an empty field near Tel Aviv. 2 hit residential areas. 8 people killed, 23 injured. Drone attacks on US bases. Iranian-backed militias in Iraq launched drones at US positions in Baghdad and Erbil. Most were shot down. 1 hit a dining facility at a base in Erbil, no deaths but 7 soldiers injured. Cyber attacks. Iran's cyber warfare units are hitting Israeli infrastructure, power grids, banking systems, government websites. Israeli cybersecurity is strong, but some attacks are getting through. Rolling blackouts in parts of Tel Aviv, bank websites down intermittently. Threats to close Strait of Hormuz again. Iran's Navy moved ships toward the strait overnight, but US Navy is now patrolling in force. Iran doesn't have the capability to close it again, at least not right now. But here's what's significant. Iran's response is weaker than expected. Why? Because their command structure is in chaos. Who's giving orders? Who's coordinating the response? The supreme leader is dead. The president is dead. Half the assembly of experts was just killed. The Revolutionary Guard commanders are either dead or hiding. Iran is fighting without a head, and you can see it in their disorganized response. Let me address the question everyone's asking. Is this escalating into a wider regional war? The answer is, not yet, but we're close. Here's who's involved so far. United States launched Operation Epic Fury, killed Khamenei. Israel bombed Tehran this morning. Iran retaliating with missiles and drones. Iranian proxies Hezbollah, Houthis, Iraqi militias. Here's who's not involved yet but could be. Hezbollah in Lebanon. 100,000 plus rockets aimed at Israel, haven't fully committed. Syria, Assad regime backs Iran, hasn't joined fighting. Turkey, NATO member but sympathetic to Iran, staying neutral. Russia backs Iran, condemns strikes, but no military action yet. Saudi Arabia and UAE hate Iran, quietly supporting us or Israel, not fighting directly. The biggest risk factor is Hezbollah. If Israel keeps bombing, Tehran and Iran calls on Hezbollah to retaliate massively. Hezbollah could launch thousands of rockets at Israeli cities. Israel would then invade Lebanon. Syria might get involved, and suddenly you have a multi-front war across the entire Middle East. Russia is another wild card. Putin has been relatively quiet. He's condemned the US and Israeli strikes but hasn't provided Iran with weapons or military support. If Russia starts arming Iran with advanced air defenses S-400 systems that can shoot down Israeli jets, that changes everything. Israel's ability to strike depends on air superiority. If they start losing planes, operations become far more difficult. So are we in a regional war? No, not yet, but we're one Hezbollah mass attack or one Russian weapons shipment away from it. Now let's talk about what happens inside Iran, because this is historically unprecedented. Iran has never been in this situation before. Since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran has had exactly two supreme leaders, Ayatollah Khomeini 1979 to 1989 and Ayatollah Khamenei 1989 to 2026, both. Transitions were orderly. Khomeini died of natural causes. Khamenei was chosen quickly. There was no chaos, no power vacuum, no leadership crisis. But now, Khamenei was assassinated, the president was assassinated, and half the assembly of experts, the body that chooses the next supreme leader, was just bombed by Israel. So who's running Iran right now? Technically, it's supposed to be the first vice president, Mohammad Mokbar, but Mokbar is a bureaucrat, not a leader. He has no authority over the military. He's a caretaker at best. The real power is with Revolutionary Guard Commander General Hossein Salami. He controls Iran's military forces, but Salami isn't the supreme leader. He can't make final decisions on nuclear policy or war and peace. He can only manage military operations, so Iran is effectively leaderless, and that creates three possible scenarios. Scenario 1, the remaining assembly of experts quickly chooses a new supreme leader. They pick someone, maybe a hardliner, maybe a compromise candidate, and he consolidates power fast. Iran stabilizes, the war continues but with clear leadership. Scenario 2, infighting and delay. Different factions within the assembly of experts can't agree on a successor. Hardliners want one candidate, pragmatists want another. The process drags on for weeks. Iran remains in chaos. Military operations become more erratic. Scenario 3, military coup, General Salami or another revolutionary. Guard commander decides they don't want to wait for the clerics to choose a leader. They seize power directly. Iran becomes a military dictatorship. The clerical regime collapses. All three scenarios are possible, and each leads to a different outcome for the war. So what happens in the next 48-72 hours? What should you be watching? Israel's next move. Will Israel continue bombing Tehran? Or was this a one-time strike to disrupt the succession process? If Israel launches more waves, we're in sustained air campaign mode. That means more Iranian casualties, more chaos, and likely more retaliation. Iran's retaliation capability. How much fight does Iran have left? They've launched missiles and drones, but the numbers are smaller than in previous days. Are they running out of weapons? Or are they conserving for a bigger strike? Hezbollah's decision. Hassan Nasrallah, Hezbollah's leader, has been quiet. He hasn't committed Hezbollah's full arsenal yet. If he orders mass rocket attacks on Israeli cities. Israel invades Lebanon and this becomes a regional war. Watch for Nasrallah's next statement. Assembly of Experts announcement. Will the surviving clerics announce a new supreme leader? Or will they delay? If they announce someone quickly, that person becomes Israel's next target. If they delay, Iran stays in chaos. Trump's response to Israeli strikes. Did Trump authorize Israel's attack? Was he informed beforehand? Or did Israel act unilaterally? The coordination between us and Israel matters. If they're aligned, expect more joint operations. If there's friction, the strategy could shift. Oil markets and gas prices. Oil hit $1.80 barrel this morning after news of the Tehran strikes. Gas prices are climbing towards $7.50 gallon in some areas. If prices keep rising, economic pressure on Trump intensifies. The next 48 hours will determine whether this war stays contained to us or Israel vs. Iran, or whether it explodes into something far bigger. Let me end with the strategic question that matters. What's the end game? Because right now, the US and Israel are pursuing a strategy of total victory, not a negotiated settlement, not a ceasefire with conditions. Total victory meaning regime change in Iran. Trump said it explicitly, until they surrender completely or are removed from power, this war will continue. Israel just demonstrated they can bomb Tehran at will. The US has already destroyed much of Iran's military infrastructure. But here's the problem. Iran isn't surrendering. Even without clear leadership, they're still fighting. And if you push them to the brink of collapse, they might do something desperate. What if Iran has a hidden nuclear weapon? What if they've been lying about their program and actually completed a bomb? A regime facing total destruction might use it. What if Iran successfully closes the Strait of Hormuz for weeks or months? The global economy collapses into depression. Yes, the US and Israel win militarily, but at what cost? What if Iran fragments into civil war after the regime falls? Then you have a failed state with nuclear material, chemical weapons, and ballistic missiles up for grabs. That's arguably more dangerous than the Islamic Republic. Total victory sounds appealing, but it comes with massive risks that nobody's fully accounting for. Israel bombed Tehran this morning. They targeted Iran's government, buildings, Revolutionary Guard headquarters, and the meeting of clerics choosing the next supreme leader. At least 15 clerics killed. Iran's succession process derailed. Trump says the war could last weeks, not a specific number, just weeks plural. Iran is retaliating, but their response is chaotic and weak because they have no functioning leadership. Israel might strike again. Hezbollah might join the war, and nobody knows when or how this ends. What do you think? Should Israel have bombed Tehran? Will Iran collapse or fight to the death? How long will this really last? Drop your take in the comments. Subscribe to Strategic Signal Report for continuous updates on the war. Every day brings new developments. We're here tracking every strike, every response, every escalation. For Strategic Signal Report, I'm Sarah Mitchell. Israel just crossed a major line, and we're watching to see what Iran does next. We'll see you in the next briefing.